Hi, I'm Tyler Free, and I wanted to do a profile on my Voiceless Ryzeal deck. Starting off, 3 low prayers of the Voiceless Voice. On summon, she places the voices continuous from deck. And then once per turn, when she is set, also once per turn, when she's set in the graveyard and you ritual summon a Light Warrior or Dragon, she special summons herself, and she is also a full tribute for a Light Warrior or Dragon ritual. 3 Diviner of the Herald and 1 Trias Hierarchica. Diviner is another way to get to low. Summon it, send Trias, then tribute in any way, including for the Trias, and you'll be able to summon low from deck. Diviner obviously also has some extra targets to send, but we'll get to those when we get to the extra deck. Low being a level 1 light fairy is very useful for this interaction. In Trias, you rarely see the other effects. You rarely have enough fairies to tribute, but the pop 2 or pop 1 or draw 2 is nice if you somehow do resolve them. But yeah, 6/1 card starters, albeit with the Garnet mixed in there. The continuous package: 3 barrier, 1 blessing, 1 radiance. Barrier, once per turn, can add a ritual monster from deck to hand. Not a ritual monster, a voiceless card or Light Warrior Dragon ritual monster. And then while you control low and a Light Warrior or Dragon ritual, all your light monsters cannot be targeted for card effects, and your opponent has to attack into your ritual monsters. Blessing, once per turn, adds a voiceless card from graveyard or banish. And then if a non-ritual monster is summoned, you get a once per turn effect to perform a ritual summon, and the summoned monster cannot be destroyed by battle. Radiance, once per turn, can either shuffle back a voiceless card or a Light Warrior or Dragon ritual monster to summon or add a voiceless card from deck to voiceless monster from deck. Or once per turn, it can target up number of cards on the field up to the number of Light Warrior or Dragon ritual monsters you control, destroy them and itself. So, interaction, extension, like these continuous cards do basically everything for the deck. 3 Saphira and 2 ritual spells is your other ways of performing rituals. You really don't want to draw prayers. It's a very bad card to draw. Because it's a fairly restrictive ritual card in that you can only use lights for it. And frankly, it's obviously a much bigger minus than your normal methods of ritual summoning, like Saphira, who once per turn can be discarded to add a Light Warrior Dragon ritual monster after binning a prayers. And then Saphira can be banished from graveyard to perform a ritual summon. You run 2 prayers despite being bad to draw just because you need 1 in deck for Saphira to work. So you need to maximize your odds without ending up drawing it a million times. Because it tends to be pretty dead in hand. 1 Storvis, Dragon Sage of the Voiceless Voice. This is usually something you search at the end of your combo. And then summon it out with its effect to shuffle back 2 spells, including a prayers. And then when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return it to your hand. And the spells have to be from hand or graveyard. Then when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can add it back to your hand and summon a Light Warrior Dragon ritual monster from your deck or your hand, ignoring summoning conditions. 2 Skull Guardian and 2 Sorvis for the ritual package. Skull Guardian is your do everything end boss. Omni-negate, search a voiceless monster on summon, or a Light Warrior Dragon ritual. and when low is in on field or in grave, he goes up to 41. The Omni is only live if he and low are both on field at the same time, however. But that's going to be like 99% of the time you have one, you've got the other. Sorvis is a targeting negation hand trap, which can be very nice to draw. And then in your opponent's turn, or either player's turn, when your opponent performs an inherent summon specifically, which can include a 10-pie quick sync, because the way those effects work, instead of synchro summoning as part of the effect proceeds to point of resolution, and then a window in which a synchro summon must occur if possible happens. But, yeah. So, Sorvis has some matchups where it's dominant, and some matchups where it doesn't really do much at all. Like, say, fusion-based decks, which aren't that common right now, but is worth noting. 2 pre-prep. I'd run more, but I'm already kind of up over 40. Just add it. This is one of the few ways you're going to want to hard cast prayers, is if you're adding it with pre-prep. Just a very... I mean, it's a +1. Like, it sets up 2/3 of a ritual summon. Sorry, we're dealing with the fly infestation. The Ryzeal package, 3x 1 sword. X can summon itself by dumping from extra. We'll get to that. And then the rank 4 locks you. And then on summon, it searches a Fire Thunder, level 4 Fire Thunder, which is sword. Sword can be special summoned if you control a Ryzeal or a rank 4 on your field or in your graveyard. And then on summon, searches a level 4 light Pyro. So, just a lot of... So it's a good amount of deck thinning. It's an easy rank 4. You don't really use the extra deck that much, and the extra 1-card combos matter a fair amount. 1 Silhouette Trick. This is your search for Silhouette Rabbit. I prefer this to Azure and Voiceless specifically because of Sorvis. So if this gets added onto an end board, you're not on your 3rd potentially summon negate. And instead have them target a negation, even if it's a very awkward one, since the timing is activate, it summons itself, and then it checks for its negation. But it's an illusion, so it's got the battle protection. It's not a terrible card, just a sometimes awkward one. For the hand traps, 3 Nibiru. Voices is probably the best Nibiru shell in the game, since the high level and light attribute make it work really well with all the ritual summoning. 3 Druisworm, 1 Magnamut for the Bestial package to counter stuff like Fiendsmith and have some amount of check on Malice. 3 Ash Blossom, just the best, most consistent hand trap we've ever had, except Maxi, but that's its own problem. Just discard to prevent deck thinning effects. 3 Infinite Impermanence. Just, again, really consistent card. Targeting effect negation is hardly a bad thing to have. And the column effect can be funny sometimes. For the Ryzeal package, we have Detonator, Eclipse Twins, Baguska, and Exciton Knight. I thought about still including Aggregator for going second, but the extra is actually getting a little tight. And I wanted the other things more. Like, I could probably cut Baguska or Exciton if I wanted to. Detonator is your main rank 4 payoff. I mean, the multiple per turn destruction effect is crazy. Eclipse Twins is your send for X, so you can then attach it back to Detonator. So if someone tries to mess with Detonator, you have the option to pop it or just let it die, and then Eclipse Twins will set it back up. Baguska is obviously the same stun card it's always been. In defense, it forces everything else into defense and then negates all the effects of those monsters in defense position. And then in attack position, it's like targeting protection or something. I don't like who actually uses attack position Baguska. And then Exiton, and once we're in every standby phase, has to detach materials and turns off once all materials are gone. Exiton Knight is just a board wipe. Like they're just it checks against how many cards you have versus your opponents, and then says, if board wipe, then board wipe. The main engine stuff, Arclight and Natis for additional sends for Diviner, and then Mondo just for an inboard piece that can set up Radiance on the opponent's turn. Diviner searches a ritual or ritual spell when it's into the graveyard. Natis pops a card. Just pretty standard ritual fare post Diviner of the Herald. The Goddess package. Moon and Lina make it easier to get the materials for White Woman, who is already one of the best removal cards ever printed. Yeah, White Woman has her own effects to negate the board and prevent resurrections. You just care about the removal. Moon turns her into a second removal spell, and Lina lets you cheat using a card from their graveyard if you can't set up Moon effectively. And then the free agent utility pieces, Silhouette Rabbit, SP Little Knight, Relinquish Anima, Typhon, and Chaos Angel. Rabbit, you can make if you have your plays negated and still have 2 monsters in rotation, and then get Silhouette Trick for 2 negates, even if it's a really funky time negates. As well as Silhouette's own MST effect. SP Little Knight, if made with an extra monster like, they're very easy to make Anima, banishes a card on the field or engrave, and then when your opponent activates a card or effect, can banish a card you control and another card. Anima, if they summon to the middle right or middle left columns, can just eat the monster if it's left there, and there's nothing preventing you from targeting it or linking above it. Typhon is just kind of your oh shit button. Summon it after if they've extra stake summoned a couple times. Over 1 material, bounce without targeting, prevent 3,000 or higher attack monsters activating their effects. Just a solid card that can. The board states resolves are fairly specific, but it's undeniably useful to have in a deck like this that has room. Chaos Angel, massive beater, easy to make because you're on a lot of lights, and even the Bestials are dark, so sometimes you'll be able to do it with the Silhouette Trick in a Bestial to have the dark effect. Diviner send Diviner in a Bestial gets you both. Low and Trias gets you light. Yeah. Obviously, it's removal on summon, and then light monsters protected from monster effects. Dark monsters from battle. The light effect is obviously much better. And now for the side deck. 3 Ghost Mourner. I choose this over Veiler because this deck desperately needs a time card. 3 Droll and Lockbird, just a really good card into stuff like Ryzeal. 3 Lancia, just an FTK into Voiceless. I wish this extra had a little more. The side deck was a little more flexible. I'd be playing a Thrust package with this, but just I don't feel like you have room because you need the Ghost Mourners. 3 Book of Eclipse, again for Ryzeal, and can be. It's not even really a great interrupt for this deck because your monsters go down, but it can be if it comes to it. And then 3 Duster, 1 Duster, 2 Lightning Storm for your back row hate package. Just good cards that get the job done. Well, so that's everything. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.